Organic gardening is important for me as well as a lot of other people. Let's talk about how we can stay organic in our backyard raised bed garden. Hey guys, welcome back to Louisiana Simple Living. This is Daryl. We're out in the garden. This video is the 10th in my Spring Garden 101 series, and that supports my goal for 2021, which is to get 1,000 of you viewers to go ahead and start a new backyard organic raised bed garden. In this video, we're going to talk about why organic gardening is important to me and the different practices or techniques you can use to stay organic as you go about nurturing your plants and getting them ready to harvest. Go ahead and subscribe, ring the bell, and like this video. Alright, let's get started. Alright, let's talk a little bit about what is organic gardening. What does that really mean? In simple terms, organic gardening is to grow and harvest our plants in harmony with nature in our backyard without using synthetic chemicals like fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides that'll throw off the balance of our soil, throw off the balance of our ecosystem. If you look at the definition, you kind of divide it between commercial growers and what we do in our backyard. For commercial growers, the USDA put out a set of requirements back in 1990 for how commercial growers, both domestic and international, can label their products as organic. And of course, for us gardening at home, that's really up to us. It's how we want to define organic gardening. The practices, the techniques that we want to use, it's all up to you. Teresa Sasinski with the Organic Gardening magazine put this definition out for what organic gardening is. Organic gardening is much more than just trying to avoid synthetic chemicals like your fertilizer, pesticide, and herbicides. It's about observing nature's processes and trying to emulate them as well as you can. And the most important aspect of organic gardening is to understand what your soil needs and to be able to provide to get your soil healthy. And if one little simple sentence, one little simple requirement can define organic gardening, hey, it's feed your soil, not the plant. Another way to look at the contrast between organic gardening and conventional gardening is to really look at following natural processes and materials to get your soil healthy. Organic garden respects the living organisms in your soil and among the plants and ecosystem, while the conventional gardener looks at soil as basically being a medium to apply chemicals and seeds to grow a plant and harvest. As mentioned before, organic gardening is critically important to my family and myself. Let's talk about why that's important to me. Organic gardening enables you to grow healthy, nutritious vegetables and fruits free from synthetic chemicals. In other words, you know what's in your food and what's on your food. A study by Johns Hopkins University has shown that one of the number one diseases that are affecting people these days is due to environmental impact, which a big portion of that is exposure to chemicals. God will ultimately decide when it's time for us to go, but I think it's really worth the effort to go ahead and try to stack the cards in your favor as much as possible through healthy, nutritious living. Keep synthetic pesticides and other chemicals off my body and out of my body. Did you know that some of the most commonly used lawn and garden fertilizers and chemicals have now been taken off the market because they've been proven to be a carcinogen in some cases? So if we take a look at the herbicide glyphosate, which is the primary ingredient in Roundup, that has now been proven to be a carcinogen. Just makes you wonder the research and what we really know about a lot of these synthetic chemicals and what their impact can be long term on our bodies. We want to maintain a balance with the backyard, with the nature in the backyard and the ecosystem, and keep it in balance. We want to reduce our exposure, pollution, and having any kind of synthetic chemical runoff or being saturated within the ground here. We want to create a habitat for birds, for other beneficial animals and insects within our garden. We want to create a self-sustainable lifestyle as much as possible. Not everything is self-sustainable, but everything from taking our plants we pull out of the garden, compost them, be able to reuse as much as what we have here. And hey, look, when I first started gardening a number of years back, I've used everything from 7 Dust. I used regular commercial fertilizer, maybe 13, 13, 13. Heck, I've even used Roundup until I started kind of reading up on a lot of these things. My position on organic gardening has evolved over the years, and now I'm a big firm believer in organic gardening. All right, and just for the record, I'm not some environmentally conscious wacko. I'm just a simple man. I see a lot of the cancers that are around these days, and some of it's because people are living longer, but there's a lot more synthetic things that are in our environment. So again, I want to stack the cards in my favor as much as I possibly can, and being organic and having an organic garden is part of doing that. I do believe it's important that all of us do a few simple things throughout our lifetime, whether it be grow trees, have an organic garden, recycle, those kind of things. Nothing that complicated. That does help contribute to the environment, keeping our planet healthy for my grandkids, for their grandkids, and so on. All right, so we kind of talked about why we want to be organic, or at least why it's important to me. Next, let's talk about some of the practices or techniques that we can employ to make our garden organic. If you've been with me through the Spring Garden 101 series, you'll notice that we have hit on just about every single one of these practices or techniques as we've gone through designing and building our new 4x5 raised bed garden. It's just not an all-inclusive list, but nevertheless, it's going to give you some ideas and tie it into what we've done throughout building our new raised bed. All right, a real simplistic term in defining organic gardening is to feed the soil, not necessarily the plant. So soil health is one of those key things that we got to look at from an organic garden standpoint. So the components of the soil are critical. We want to make sure we're using nothing but natural components, natural amendments. So, and if you've been through in the series, you've heard me talk about the key things that we put in our soil mix: Sphagnum peat moss, naturally occurring organic matter, vermiculite, a naturally occurring mineral. We look at the different kinds of compost. I use composted cow manure, composted chicken manure, mushroom compost. I also have a compost tumbler. So this is my compost tumbler. I usually get some compost from it through the year, but don't get a whole lot. But I do use it to supplement what I get from my local nursery. Also, when I amend my soil, I use the azomite rock dust. It's basically a type of rock, a volcanic rock that's crushed, and it's organic. Also use an organic fish and kelp fertilizer. And I can use that fish and kelp fertilizer to organically fertilize my plants out in the garden. All right, compost tea, that's not something I've done yet, but I do want to try that. But it's basically, you want to get some water. You have some compost you could tie it up into a bag. Use an oxygenator, like a aquarium oxygenator. Use that to bubble oxygen up through that, and it basically creates this really good, what they call tea, that you can pour out. It's an organic type of fertilizer that you can pour out on your plants. I'll do a video on that coming up. All right, leaf mulch is very beneficial for our plants and for our soil. Other kinds of mulch can be used too. I personally use leaf mulch for the most part. Works really well. And again, all this is important to feed the soil, which then feeds the plant. Not put something in the soil just to feed the plant. So it's a little different mindset from a organic gardener to a conventional gardener. And most importantly, a healthy plant can better defend itself from disease, virus, and pests. All right, organic plants. Now, I know you can go to your local nursery and some of them will have organic plants for sale. They're probably going to be pretty expensive because you probably have to take a little different approach to it than from a mass production standpoint that you normally have in a local nursery. I haven't ever bought any because I always grow mine from seed. If you go look online, different seed vendors offer organic seeds. What that means is the seeds that they've processed came from a plant that was considered organic. You know, you will pay more for those organic seeds. I personally don't worry about that. To me, it's more important that the seed, once I have it, from sowing, to a seedling, to growing, to harvest, that I stay organic from that aspect. A key part of organic gardening is organic pest control. It's a guarantee you're going to have pests, insects that are going to come invade your garden at some point in the season. It may be multiple times during the season because these different insects mature and they come out and they attack plants at different time periods. We got to be prepared to organically defend against that. So one of the first things you can do is there's certain plants you can plant interspersed into your raised bed that will act as a deterrent to certain insects. And marigolds is one you've seen me used in our Spring Garden 101 series. But you can also plant, there's certain herbs, you can plant chives, you can plant garlic, you can plant basil, and that's just a natural deterrent to a lot of insects. So if you were to put one of those in the middle of your garden or middle of your raised bed, it would have a little bit of a deterrence factor, at least from the area adjacent around that particular plant. So you can plant certain types of plants that will attract beneficial insects. And talking like flowers like bachelor's button, daisies, zinnias, marigolds, salvias, nasturtiums, different kinds of flowers that will attract pollinators. They will attract beneficial insects as well. Now the bugs we're trying to attract are ones like ladybugs. They're absolutely vital to our organic garden. Praying mantises, beneficial nematodes, assassin bugs, and there's other beneficial bugs, not just pollinators, but actually ones that will take on your pest control duty, so to speak, and help you out. And I've tried it in the past. You can order 500 ladybugs. Man, you go and you release them out here, and they're out in your garden for a week, maybe more. But over time, you kind of don't see them anymore. So I think some of them stay. Some of them are here. It's probably a beneficial thing. Like I said, those can be ordered and placed in your garden and released in your garden to be able to help with pest control. Of course, there are other natural insect predators that you want to have around your garden. And the first one you think of is birds, lizards, frogs, even small snakes. They're going to eat slugs, they're going to eat bugs, and a lot of them with caterpillars. So man, that's important. We have them out here in our garden helping us out, protect against those pests. Now there's a way to attract, to get more birds in some of these the good varmints in your garden area. As you can tell, I've showed you this birdhouse in the past. Last spring, summer, I had 3 generations of eastern bluebirds. I've already seen them. They're actually here, and they're putting straw into the nest and all that. Now, I don't know if there's any eggs been put in there yet, but hey, so we're pulling birds in. I have a number of bird feeders that are scattered throughout the backyard and on the side of the house. Got hummingbird feeders. All those things that are going to be good to pull those natural predators in. And that's what we need, some help, and they will provide us help with the pests that we don't want in the garden. And there's a couple organic products that are from a pesticide type control that are organic. Neem oil, you've heard me talk about that one before, and that's basically, it's an oil from a tree that originated in India, I believe. It'll deter and kill some of the bugs if you spray them on the plants that they're on. You got BT, Bacillus thuringiensis, I don't know how to pronounce that, but it's BT. It's another organic product. It's a bacteria that you spray. It gets on soft-bodied insects like caterpillars, and over a couple days it releases toxins into their body, and it'll basically kill the caterpillars. Both of those are very effective, and they're in my arsenal. Anytime I have pest issues, I'm gonna lean on those 2 guys there. Insecticidal soap. That's not a product that I've used in the past. After just doing some research, I'd like to try it out. That's just another alternative to my neem oil and BT. It's made with potassium salts of fatty acids. And what it is, it's just a toxin that affects soft-bodied insects. The insecticidal soap is very effective against soft-bodied insects like mealybugs and aphids. And another product that I haven't used and I'm very interested, I actually bought some diatomaceous earth, and that's a soft kind of, it looks like flour, very fine powder. To many insects it's a lethal dust because it actually has microscopic fine edges, and it actually cuts into the soft body of some insects.
Yeah, and this is just a quick picture of the neem oil that I use, and the BT, which is a thuricide. And that's to really attack caterpillars. Works really well. And there's your diatomaceous earth as another organic pest control product that I talked about.
Now another technique is interplanting and diversity. And I've talked about that in the Spring Garden 101, but if you have the choice, you don't want to plant all of the plants of the same type all in adjacent areas. Let's just say I want to plant 10 tomatoes in my garden. If I plant all 10 of them in adjacent, area, surrounding area, if you got a fungal issue with the soil right there, if you got hornworms that come in, if you got any of these different kinds of bad bugs, it's very easy for them bugs to move across to another plant, as well as fungus and virus disease can spread very easily to the other plant. So it's not always easy to say I'm not going to put a tomato by another tomato, because I do that, and I'll put peppers by peppers, but just try to mix it up. And again, I talked about marigolds earlier. I try to put marigolds or other flowers intermixed into the beds, and the whole idea here is to try to confuse the pest, so to speak, and just make it as hard as it can be for them to be able to take over that particular area or part of the garden. And crop rotation is another key element of being organic and being able to be successful while you're having an organic garden, because many of your insects, they overwinter. So what they'll do is they'll form into a grub. In some cases, they'll bury down below your plants into your raised bed. During the winter. Then come spring, when you put your tomato back out or you put your squash back out, that grub can come up and attack. Okay, so if we have the same exact type of plant or vegetable in that one area year after year after year, two things happen. Number one, you make it really easy, convenient for that insect to go ahead and attack your new plant. Plus, it's a good idea from a nutrient standpoint, and from a fertility standpoint. You want to move. Each plant's going to have its own needs and pull nutrients from the ground in different manners and different levels. So if you keep the same exact type of plant in the same exact spot, there's a good chance that you're going to deplete it of nutrients. And then you also have the disease type of issue that you could have as well. If you have a disease one year, you're probably going to have the same disease. If it was like a fungal disease, something like that, you'll probably have that next year as well in that same area if you plant the same plant. All right, also critical to organic gardening is your pollinators. So we got to have pollinators on the vast majority of your plants that you want to have it fruit. With conventional gardening, or if you're using pesticides typically don't differentiate between insects. 7 dust is going to wipe out whatever it gets on. So if it's on a bee, it's going to kill that bee. So the idea behind organic gardening being successful is to be able to protect our pollinators and give them the best opportunity, the pollinator plants. There's a few bees behind me. Blueberries are coming up, and they're pollinating like crazy. Now, according to a lot of the reports that you see, research, the bee population is dying, or has decreased dramatically, which is putting a lot of pressure on pollinators. So it's key we make the best environment possible for our pollinators, because they're going to make it successful for us being organic gardeners. And so with that in mind, I encourage my pollinators to come into my garden. As I've mentioned, I plant flowers throughout the garden to help pull those pollinators in. So they got some nice sweet flowers, as well as the vegetables that are blooming that they can pollinate. That's where I was talking about the insect barn or house. If you can look kind of up close, you can see that the mason bees will go in here. They'll form a mud ring. The mama will go in there and deposit the egg, cover it, create kind of like a cell. Then they'll add another egg, and they'll end up coming out a couple. So you can see some of these have been used. A few on this side as well. But again, just one more thing we can do to try to help keep the pollinators happy and going out in our garden. And of course, water is available for pollinators as well. Also have hummingbird feeders that are out. And I'll tell you, they love salvias. They love different kinds of flowers that I put out here. They'll come and feed off of them as well. All right, we talked earlier about the USDA's Organic Act that they had that kind of set into place what must be, what the requirements are to be able to call something organic. So how do we know the products that we're buying today are actually organic? All right, so the Organic Materials Review Institute, OMRI is a nonprofit company that manufacturers, vendors, they send their products to be tested, and if they are in fact organic, then they actually can get this OMRI seal that's put on their package. And so OMRI provides an independent review of products. Let's say a company wants to make a new soil mix and call it organic. That particular soil mix, would be sent to OMRI. They would do their thing and basically stamp it as organic or not. And so that's what the OMRI stamp or logo is on different packages that you may get when you're looking to be organic. Now, if you look close down at this Monterey BT, you see right there it shows the MRI listed. That means it is an organic product. Alright guys, hey, thanks for coming back and visiting Louisiana Simple Living again today. This is the 10th video in my Spring Garden 101 series. Hope you enjoyed it. Being organic is important to me and my family. And I want to just give you a taste of what that means to be organic out in your garden, and some different methods, practices, things you can do to be organic. And it's absolutely crystal clear that organic gardening provides many benefits, such as your health, as well as the health of the soil and your backyard and the environment around you. So hey, join me on this journey. If you haven't subscribed as yet, please subscribe, ring the notification bell, and like this video. Just a reminder, make memories now, not later. And as always, I will see you on the next video.